thank you for joining us at FutureMoneyTrends.com. Remember Trace Mayer, he was our very first person that we interviewed about Bitcoin back in September of 2012 at Casey's Summit in Carlsbad. Trace was telling me to buy Bitcoin. It was at $11. I was totally overblown and kind of confused by the whole thing, and I'm not even going to deny I'm still a little confused by it, but I do now see the infrastructure build out for Bitcoin. He's traveling the world. He was crazy enough to say that it was going to go to $50 when we first talked to him. So anyway, he was obviously wrong. It did not go to 50. It went to 1,200. Yeah. Trace, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Daniel.
Trace, what's the future for Bitcoin? I mean, I'm here, and I got to be honest with you, I'm overwhelmed by the infrastructure build. I think people on the internet think it's just some bubble from internet junkies or something, but no, the people are building real businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I just flew up from Buenos Aires. We had a conference just like this down there. Just as many people. They're building stuff out in Spanish, like meeting Argentinian needs, Chilean, Uruguayan, Brazilian needs. It's happening in China, it's happening in Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, all over Europe. Here we're building out in the US. This is actually very muted because we've had a very chilled effect on the Bitcoin infrastructure built out in the US due to the regulatory environment. And I think that the US Senate hearings are going to help thaw that a little bit, and we'll see even more activity. So I mean, what you see here is just kind of scratching the surface of what's happening internationally.
Top question from people I get about Bitcoin when they either get a report or just talking to them is how do they initially buy it? Everybody can get the wallet, that's a pretty easy thing. But besides doing it locally, like if I gave you cash and you did a transaction with me, how does someone easily just wire money? I mean, do you trust any of these little exchanges here in the U.S.?
Well, there aren't very many exchanges, if any, in the U.S. We got a few like CoinMarket, Kraken, but really, yeah, it's still very difficult to get Bitcoins if you're in the U.S. There's Coinbase, that's ACH with your bank account. I like them, but they had a bug in their system with how they were recording transactions, and a buddy of mine, they lost 50 of his Bitcoins, and like he had to go through, and eventually they got it back to him, but it's just kind of annoying. And so we are seeing some, growing pains and stuff like that, but what do you expect when it's up 6,000% in the last year? And that's BitPay's payment transaction processing amount that's up 6,000% in addition to just the price. So I mean, like Bitcoin is like it's growing really fast, really rapid, and we're trying to make it easier for everybody to use and store their coins safely and securely and be able to spend them on stuff. But yeah, I agree, and the regulations are really what make Bitcoin difficult to buy if you're trying to buy from a third party, because there's money transmission and money service business and all of that. So I mean, if you're not able to kind of jump through those hoops, just keep in mind the problem's not with Bitcoin, the problem's with the government, and they're the ones that kept you from being able to buy coins at 200 before they went to 1,200. Like they're the ones who caused you that financial hardship.
How do you protect your Bitcoins? So like with everybody, it's a trust issue. For people like me I'm not software savvy or tech savvy, so like I just want to make sure like my email that no one's going to hack into it and mess with it. How do you protect them? Yeah,
so for the ultimate in Bitcoin security, I recommend Armory. We got a booth over there. Armory, it's really the standard for protecting your Bitcoin securely. It's not the easiest to use. Hopefully we'll get that built out, but like it's really there for that kind of Cadillac of Bitcoin wallets. Then you just need to have good computer hygiene practices. Like if you're going to use something else, like there's a crypto kit, there's blockchain.info, there's other the Bitcoin QT wallet. There are a lot of options, but you're going to just need to make sure your computer's safe and secure if you're using those.
For somebody who kind of says, hey, you know what, this is interesting, businesses are popping up, people are accepting it, more and more merchants and individuals are using it, but they go, but look at the chart, it went straight up parabolic. Is it too late? I mean, or is this still in its infancy?
Well, there was a great YouTube video by James D'Angelo about the S-curve adoption of Bitcoin. I bet if you search like S-curve adoption on YouTube, you'll find it, Bitcoin. And he talks about how it kind of ramps up like this really quick. And we could very well be in that type of a ramp up where Bitcoin goes viral and starts getting more and more accepted, just like Facebook did, or YouTube, or Snapchat, or Google, or Yahoo, or any of the internet protocols themselves, because Bitcoin is just a protocol. And we've got this critical mass. We got a lot of people in the community. We got companies starting, VC funding coming in. Like, all of that is just feeding on itself. And so, when you look at where the price has gone to what it's gone to, I mean, that's tiny in the grand scheme of things. If 1% of the every Chinese person, if 1% of them put just $20 US into Bitcoin, it moved the price to about 10,000 a coin. So I mean, Bitcoin's still tiny compared to, this is global. You got Argentinians that it meets a very specific use case in Argentina. I was talking to a guy who owns a hotel, and if a guest pays with a $100 bill, depending on the route of where that $100 takes to get to his pocket, he gets between 1,000 pesos and 150 pesos. Wow. Because there's like 25% if you use a credit card, and then 4% to Visa, and you got to pay 45% income tax on the remaining, and you got the currency control, so you get the 6 pesos to the dollar exchange rate instead of like the 9.3. So I mean, like, Argentina is a great use case for Bitcoin, because there's this huge difference between getting 150 pesos and 1,000 pesos. Use Bitcoin, you're going to get 1,000 pesos for the same $100 you're charging the end consumer who's renting the room. So, worldwide, we got a lot of problems with money and banking and money transmission and remittances and infrastructure. That's what everybody's working on. They're working on solving these problems that people in the market really have, and those solutions haven't been provided because regulation has stifled monetary evolution, and Bitcoin is censorship resistant, so it just honey badgers its way right through all of that regulation one way or the other.
With Chinese citizens not being able to purchase actual goods and services in China except peer-to-peer, how big of a roadblock is this? Because I mean, if other countries do this, essentially then Bitcoins are just speculative.
Well, can't buy it officially, right? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. It honey badgers through all this because it's censorship resistant. You got a ton of Chinese exporters who are going to be taking Bitcoin as payment because it's faster, cheaper, more effective, instantly settled, and they're just not going to turn it into yuan. Yeah. They're going to keep it in Bitcoin. And Chinese are notorious savers. 30-40% of their salary gets saved on average. So I mean, yeah, even though they can't necessarily spend it that easily, but then also I think it's a gradual transition that the Chinese government wants to have into this virtual economy. And so it plays right into their overall plan. I know free market solutions will arise, and we're still in the infancy of this whole thing. So, I mean, the sky's the limit for how many businesses could come out of this thing. But one of the things I think of is somebody dying. Is there any companies out there yet that are trying to accommodate this situation? If somebody dies, how do you leave the Bitcoins to your family without, because you're trying to keep everything private? Or also a rogue employee. Let's say you're a merchant and you're accepting Bitcoins, and some employee could literally just take the Bitcoins and throw them in another wallet, and you wouldn't know where the hell they went. Is there any companies that are rising up that you've talked to or seen that are trying to address these problems? You're like leading right into Armory there. I mean, we've got the most advanced wallet. I was a seed round investor to fund Armory, and we've actually released the new version, 0.9, and it's got fragmented backups built right into it. So if you wanted a Bitcoin estate plan, you could take the private key to the wallet and you split it up into like 5 different fragments, and you can specify you need 3 out of those 5 fragments, and then you could distribute those to your trusted family members. None of them individually could get your keys, but combined they could. And if you trust enough of them, and you pass away, they can recombine those keys and then move the Bitcoin. So yeah, we kind of we've got a trust or estate planning type solution built natively into Armory that way. And then we actually want to innovate out. The real race in the wallet space right now is multi-signature, and that's where you can split the actual wallets up, and then more like 2 out of 4 have to sign to off on the purchase order to move the coins or whatever. So I think that'll help with corporate adoptance. And all of those solutions got to be built, and whoever builds them, whoever adds the most value makes the most money, and this is just a gold rush of money right now. Last night you said something that scared me a little bit. You were a seed investor for Armory.
You've built something that's really great. It's a high quality product. But then I asked you what the business model was, and you said we don't have a way to make money on it yet.
Yeah.
Well, that's a problem, because that actually reminds me of the whole .com thing. Because remember, you had all these tech companies, and none of them weren't making any money. I mean, how many of these companies actually have a business model? I know you were a seed investor in BitPay, right?
Yeah.
Now, BitPay is making money, correct?
Oh, yeah. BitPay is making money hand over fist. Like, BitPay they are knocking it out of the park. But with Armory, we have a lot of potential ways we can make money, and interestingly, when we funded it, I funded partially in Bitcoin, and those Bitcoins have gone up tremendously. So we've got a fortress of a balance sheet with Armory, and so we just get to build really cool stuff that everyone in the Bitcoin space is going to be able to benefit from, and we'll figure out how to monetize it later. But we need this key infrastructure so that we could have like a Chevron or a Texaco come in and begin using it. We can build that.
On a side note, because you have very close ties with the gold and silver community, as I do, did you know Rick Rule recently? I don't know if he was on camera when he told us, but Rick Rule went through the process, and I remember I was
buying a Bitcoin.
Yes, I was there when you told Rick Rule about it.
Yeah, I know.
And I think you spent like a good hour with him. In fact, I think I was there when you first told Peter Schiff about it as well, who's made a lot of news lately about Bitcoin. But did you know Rick Rule bought some?
No, last I talked to Rick Rule, he was, I'm not touching that thing that's used on Silk Road, but maybe the Senate hearings kind of helped thaw that.
Well, you'll have to get the story for him. I think it was like 4 months ago, and all he wanted to do was like buy something with it, and between the time of him buying it and it had gone up like it was a 10-bagger by the time he had done his transaction.
It's actually, I had floated the idea because Eric Sprott's got that gold ETF and the silver ETF. And I was kind of floating the idea past Rick. I'm like, look, somebody should come out with a Bitcoin ETF. And he's like, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. And Barry Silbert came out with this ETF, and I was helping him with it a little bit. It started with $2 million worth of Bitcoin in it in September, and 2 months later in November, it's got over $70 million in it.
Okay,
it's making a ton of money.
That leads me to a great question.
So like Rick Rule, you just missed the boat, buddy.
Yeah.
Like you should have paid attention to me to begin with, kind of like Peter Schiff should have.
Somebody who says, you know what, the whole thing's just too damn complicating. I'm still reading a newspaper and subscribe to Time Magazine. What if they're like, hey, I just want to write a $10,000 check and I want some hedge fund or somebody to invest in Bitcoin? Is there somebody out there that you could recommend or trust?
Yeah, that'd be the Bitcoin Investment Trust.
Is it Bitcoin Investment Trust like .com?
Yeah, I mean, if you Google like second market Bitcoin, it's going to get to that investment trust.
Surprisingly, some of these guys, as tech savvy as they are, they suck at SEO. Like I've searched their business names, and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
They don't come up.
I mean, the Bitcoin Investment Trust with second market, like that's how someone like that would do it. But yeah, I mean, if they just want to read a newspaper, like I don't want to buy a newspaper, their revenues are like gone, right?
Well, yeah.
And but yeah, so I mean, Bitcoin's where the entrepreneurial energy is. And BitPay's payment processing is up 6,000% year over year, up 390% October to November, $35 million of processing in November. So, I mean, this is like, it's getting to be real.
Yeah, no, the biggest thing I'm coming out with this not only is the infrastructure, but it's all entrepreneurs in here. So, I mean, just the DNA, there's very smart people. Obviously, or in my opinion, there's probably the next Steve Jobs or Microsoft in here. Yeah. Maybe the next Warren Buffett.
Buffett.
But
That'd be kind of fun. Except you wouldn't know because my Bitcoins, you don't know how many I got, right? I don't have any.
Trace, is there anything you'd like to tell the audience just as far as the show or what you're seeing that's people need to know?
Yeah, this is just the beginning. When I was at a dinner with Barry from Second Market to put it together, 25 people there, top finance out of New York. He's doing the dog and pony show trying to get people in this investment trust, because he's going to make some money with it. And one of the guys there was senior vice president at Goldman Sachs in private wealth management. And he kind of put me on the spot, like, kind of top upper bound of where Bitcoin can go. Where do you think that is? And I laid out the case for him. Just 1% of the assets in offshore tax haven bank accounts, if it came into Bitcoin, which would be a great asymmetric hedge to the current problems that are out there, $2.8 million per Bitcoin. So I mean, $800, $1,200, like we're just in the initial stages of price discovery. And there's a lot of volatility because there's so much asymmetric information. It's hard to comprehend and understand, see where it's going to go. But people are coming across, they're doing their research, and they're like, this could be big. Yeah. This could be really, really big. And you know, they get here, they start feeling the energy. And like I was saying, it's a lot more muted here in the U.S. than it is outside the U.S. because they don't have the regulatory trammeling that's going on that we've had here. It's big, and it's worldwide, and it's global. And yeah, it's going to be exciting to watch where it goes. A lot of these gold and silver bugs, they think, oh, there's going to be this massive wealth transfer to holders of gold. Market's saying it's going to holders of Bitcoin. You know, a year ago, I wrote an article about why people should switch some of their gold into Bitcoin. And 3 weeks later, someone wrote a Reddit post about it. That person switched 60 ounces of gold into Bitcoin. Those 60 ounces were worth $95,000 at the time. Today, those 60 ounces are worth about $75,000. The Bitcoins are worth $13.5 million. So he could reallocate half of 1% of those $13.5 million worth of Bitcoins and reacquire his 60 ounces of gold.
You know, that's a rough one for gold investors because they don't trust the dollar. So then they're going to this physical asset that's proven. You know, we both know that gold is not going to zero. It will be worth something in 100 years from now. So I think with Bitcoin is just being so early, I mean, I don't want to be too hard on them. There are people out there who think it's conspiracy. I know there's a very good person who means well who says that Bitcoin is from the CIA.
It's open source software. Anyone can review the code. I mean, it is what it is. Like, anybody can read it, download it, watch it. So personally, I put it in the same class as gold and silver in the sense that it's equity based, it's open source. It's different in that it's extensible. You can change it, add things to it, like the payment protocol, multi-signature, all this stuff. I think it's a solution to a lot of our market problems. Maybe not the only solution, but part of the solution. I think gold is part of the solution. But cryptocurrency as a whole is an empty storage tank. There's trillions of dollars in real estate, in bonds, in gold. If just small percentages of that bleed into the cryptocurrency storage tank to fill it up so that it's got trillions of dollars so that the capital pools can flow between all of them, you gotta fill up that empty storage tank. And in the process, price is gonna go through the roof.
Yeah, in the early days in America, there were over 1,000 currencies probably. Do you think we're going back to that?
I think we're decentralizing the currency market. The dollar's been nationalized for 100 years. The economy is way too complex in the information age. We need a much more malleable, a much more, when we transfer information over the internet, we don't only use Twitter or only use email or only use blog posts or only use YouTube. We have a lot of different ways to serve market needs depending on what the individual use case is. I think we're going to see the same type of thing happen in the monetary and the financial systems. And Bitcoin's got smart contracts that you can build out, atomic trading of shares. You can abstract on top of it with colored coins. All of these are solutions. Pretty much everything that Wall Street does, we can do in Bitcoin and automate it into the software code. I mean, it's really amazing. And so where it goes, it'll be interesting to watch. I think we got a very fascinating 10 or 20 years with this new math-based currency system that is being developed.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. This is the most important question I've ever asked anybody.
Uh-oh.
A year and a half ago, you told me, hey, I'll give you some Bitcoins. And I said, I didn't respond to you. Is 18 months too long to take you up on that offer?
Yeah, definitely.
Trace.
Luck, yesterday someone brought up Peter Schiff and how Peter Schiff was saying, all these early adopters are getting lucky. And I just lit into this guy. I was like, look, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And people who saw something that other people didn't, they took entrepreneurial risk. They started building out the infrastructure like BitPay and Armory, like before anybody saw any of this materializing. We took a lot of entrepreneurial risk. We saw stuff other people didn't see. There's no luck about it. Like the value is flowing to the people who deserve it. Yeah. And if you can hold those private keys of wealth in your own Armory wallet, there's nobody between you and that wealth. We're building that out. You know, that's a big, big deal. You can't seize it, you can't confiscate it, you can't impede it. I mean, people should have been able to see this. I wrote a book about it, The Great Credit Contraction. They should have seen how Bitcoin plays into all of this. And like I said, we're still in the early adopter phase. There's 7 billion people in the world.
Yeah. Trace Mayer, you're an advocate, cutting edge, and possibly the first Bitcoin Warren Buffett, although you do not confirm that you have any Bitcoins. But thank you very much.
Right, thanks, Andy.